Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is a returning guest to the show, although her title has been upgraded. She is now co-president of the League of Women Voters of Connecticut. Her name is Judy Dolphin, and we welcome you back to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being invited.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you.
It just means more work and more responsibility. Isn't that the bottom line? Isn't that what it is?
I don't think they offer it as a promotion.
Right.
It's like, who is willing to take this task?
You drew straws and you had
exactly. I got the short one. That's right.
But the League of Women Voters is certainly a worthy organization. For those who might not be familiar with it in general, we'll glean it down to the Connecticut and Rhode Island stuff in a little bit. But in general, what is the League of Women Voters? What's it about?
The League of Women Voters is an almost 100-year organization that was formed when women achieved the right to vote in 1920. And sometimes I feel like I've been around since then, but probably not really.
Little, not quite as long.
It was a long struggle, 75 years in the making for women to achieve the right to vote. And when the constitutional U.S. Constitution was amended, which was the 19th Amendment, when it was amended, the women who were part of that suffrage movement got together for a final meeting, and they said, we don't need to be a suffrage organization anymore. We've achieved suffrage, which means the right to vote.
Right.
And they formed the League of Women Voters, saying, now that we're voters, we really have to become educated. We have to help educate the people that we know so that we can be full-fledged citizens of this country. So that's really the history.
And it's important for anybody, as given the right to vote, to be an informed voter, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of someone who just kind of necessarily goes into the booth and blindly clicks their party. Or it's okay to do that, but just be informed of what the candidates that you're voting for, what they represent, and do you believe in what they're talking about, right?
Well, one of the things that the League does nationwide, and we are a national organization, we support and provide the opportunities for candidates to speak to their constituents, and thus we sponsor debates. Currently, we are involved with, I don't know how many, I'm going to say 12, just in southeastern Connecticut, at least 12 debates, where we provide timers and that kind of credibility that's important for people to understand everybody has a right to ask a question, and it's not driven by any one point of view.
Now, has it become a sort of a lobbying organization? Do you get together on an issue and decide that you want to, speak to your local representatives and say, this is what we, stand for and would like you to kind of look into?
Yes, we do. But I think it's really important to understand that we are a two-part organization. One part of it is voter registration, voter information. We don't commingle our point of view on some issue with that task. So when we support a debate, for instance, we will not be challenging the candidates on a position that we favor. We will be providing the opportunity for both sides, or all three or four sides, to have their say and to let the public choose their own. However, we do studies, and when we do studies, and they take a long time, very long, then we will take a position. And for example, one of our big issues is openness in government, transparency, and campaign finance. The money that drives elections and drives the political process these days is unconscionable. And so we're constantly working with the legislature, taking our point of view to the legislatures in various states, nationally to Congress, trying to get transparency and big money out of elections.
Do you ever do you get frustrated if I don't even have to finish this sentence? I know exactly. Well, what I was going to say is you push an issue to a certain point. You try to get them to take note of it, get involved, but then somewhere along the way it just kind of falls by the wayside, and you almost have to throw your hands up.
It does fall by the wayside, but that doesn't mean we throw up our hands. Those foremothers of ours worked 75 years to get us the vote. Just because we might lose in a legislative session on a particular issue doesn't mean we're going to
It's
back
not
down.
over. It's
It's
not
not
over.
over till the
Till somebody
opera,
sings. Yeah.
opera star sings. That's right.
Now, you explained the sort of the beginnings of the League of Women Voters, but maybe people might be surprised that the name, it's not just for women anymore, is it?
No, it is not.
Yeah, and that's something that I learned on our last show that we did together. Talk about that a little bit.
I will, and I'll invite you to become a member as well, Sean. We've had men members since 1974, and we have looked at trying to change our name so that it doesn't sound like the only people who can belong are women. But you have a brand, and it's like Coca-Cola or Tide or some other organization changing their name. You wouldn't know what the
Right.
product was.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So the League has this long history and a history of credibility because we do study and we do provide balanced information. So that's been the struggle. How do you maintain your image, your national image, and your national credibility and change your name? One proposal that I've seen that I really like is we're League of Women Voters. Well, if you put a backslash between the O and the M, you get Woe Men's.
So you're
And
combining
it would be a combination. And personally, I would like to see that happen. It hasn't happened yet, but yes, we do have men members and many men who are leaders in their organizations, presidents and voter service people and that sort of thing. We have some pretty active men in our local league here.
So it's so both men and women are involved in the League of Women Voters, and obviously one of the most important things, especially now, since we are coming up as we tape the show, a midterm election is coming up. It is the registration of new voters, correct?
That's one aspect.
I kind of think that that's like important at this time because an election is coming up.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And in fact, we've got some fun programs that we do where we go into the schools, and because if you are 17 and will be 18 by the day of the election, you can register to vote. So we've been with seniors in high schools in a variety of locations, telling them what it's all about, showing them how to register to vote. And I don't know if you know, but in Connecticut now, you can register online if you have a motor vehicle ID, whether it be a driver's license or just a state-issued ID. The reason is that means your signature is on file, and the Secretary of the State can register you with that signature on file. So it's very easy. Just go to the Secretary of the State's website, and on the home page, there's a place where you can register. It's great.
I think it also makes sense because if you're talking about young people who are registering to vote for the first time, their whole thing is about online. They're about the internet.
Right.
They're about social media. They're about their iPhones and everything.
Absolutely.
They're plugged in and online all the time. So why not go where they are to get them, encourage them to register to vote, right?
Yes.
It makes sense.
It does make sense. And the other thing that is really neat is the Secretary of the State has a verify button on their website. So if you aren't sure where you vote or whether you really remembered to register after you changed your residence, because if you even move across the street, you have to re-register to vote.
You just change your address, even if you're not moving out of
Exactly.
your voting district.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I go to the voting polls and I have moved to another address, they won't let me vote.
And you get sent to the bad person's room, and then you have to re-register,
That's
basically.
right, and then you can't vote in that election.
Right. One of the things that always happens is, as we are coming up to what we would call a midterm election, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the turnout for that it always seems lower. Why is that?
Well, I guess it's because it doesn't get the kind of press that a presidential election gets. I mean, everybody gets excited about the presidential election. The worst turnout is when it's a local election.
that's
and guess
so
what?
true.
That is where the action is.
And not only, but I say that that's where you can make the most change with your vote, with your voice, is in those local elections. People don't realize that, and they don't vote in those, and they're giving up a tremendous opportunity.
They are. And if you think about it, that's the one that influences your life the most. It's the schools, it's the town roads, it's the town council, it's ordinances, blight ordinances, or anything else you want to talk about, it's all happening at the local level. Much bigger impact on the individual than the state or national.
And national, even you could even argue that your vote might not count if it's the Electoral College and it's already been decided, and your vote. I mean,
Well, let us not forget about hanging chads.
Very, very true too. But you know what I mean. People do not. You're so right,
Right.
and I think that should be emphasized the most. The local elections, which is the elections, unfortunately, that most people don't participate in, has the greatest effect on your town or your community. I almost think that some people almost don't want people to be informed or go out and vote because then they can kind of push through their agenda.
I think that's a little cynical.
I know,
I
it
think
is.
that's a little cynical.
But you can tell that I've been in. I could see what's going on around, and they work hard. The local, politicians, your first selectmen, if you're whatever town, they work hard.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Having been a school board member in another state, I can tell you that is one tough job.
Well, I appreciate you trying to remove the cynicism from me and from the voting process too. So
Well, and I just wanted to add one thing. Our local league has had a lot of experience offering debates for local candidates, school boards, town councils, and so on. And when you listen to those folks talk, you know that their heart is what the project is. Whether if they're running for the school board, it's because they care about the kids in their town, or the politician. People have this concept that politics is bad.
right, yeah,
Politics
it's really got a
is
negative
just-
connotation.
It is, but unfortunately, politics is how you get the work done. And if you're not part of the solution, you're not helping anything.
Is it true that if you don't vote, then you can't? The saying is you can't really complain about what's going on because you didn't participate.
I believe that. The league has a very good slogan: democracy is not a spectator sport. You can't sit back and cheer or boo because you have no influence.
Right, very true. That's a perfect opportunity for us to take a break and come back because we've got a lot more to get to. But I'll have you give out the website for people to go and learn more.
Sure. It's www.lwvct.org.
All right, we'll put a graphic up on the screen
Great,
for you
thank
too
you.
there. Judy Dolphin, co-president of the League of Women Voters for Connecticut. We'll take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Judy Dolphin. She happens to be co-president of the League of Women Voters of Connecticut. Now, there is a League of Women Voters is a national organization, and there's also League of Women Voters in every state. So those watching in Rhode Island today, they have a League of Women Voters.
Absolutely.
And a lot of this, obviously, the same philosophies are followed. There may not be the same elections, obviously not the same candidates, but same elections may not be going on. Maybe like there's not a gubernatorial race in one state and there is in the other. It depends on what's going on.
That's right.
All right. I want to get into something that's of topic late, and that is the state's constitution. And for example, one of the things that we were talking about off the air, and a question was asked: has it ever been amended? Talk to me about that.
Well, I will, and this is specifically about the Constitution of the state of Connecticut. And as your watchers certainly know, every state has its own constitution.
Right.
They were all developed independently, and they're all very different.
Can a state have one as well as like a district of
Yes,
Columbia?
absolutely.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Every state has a constitution. And in fact, if you look at it, most organizations have some basic framework from which to work. I mean, the League of Women Voters has a constitution.
It's sort of your mantra.
Well,
it's
actually,
your-
we don't. We have bylaws, but most entities have a constitution. It's the framing document for that entity.
In history class, we've learned how amendments come to be for the United States Constitution. Does the same process occur for states?
Yes, it does. The legislature has to either pass an amendment to offer to the voters at, I believe it's 3/4 I'm not sure if it's 5/8 or 3/4 of the legislators have to support it. If that's the case, then it can go to the voters in the next voting cycle. In this case, the one that's been proposed was passed by 2 separate General Assemblies, each with a majority. And that then drives it to the voters. So the legislature has to act to propose the amendment and propose the language, but they do not adopt the amendment. It has to be adopted by the voters of the state.
And that'll come in whenever the next election rolls around?
That is correct.
It'll be like a question, you know, on
It's
the
a question.
on the ballot.
They call it a ballot question.
Okay.
That is correct.
When you talk about amendments for states, is it what kind of things do people propose as amendments? It could be all different things, and it's just based on the needs and the wants in the particular state, right?
Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check out my cheat sheet
That's
here.
fine. You got some charts there.
That the state constitution of Connecticut has been amended 31 times since 1965. So that's not that long ago.
No.
The amendments prohibit sexual discrimination in 1974. They eliminated county sheriffs in 2000. They lowered the voting age from 21 to 18 in 1976. And obviously there were 28 other amendments.
So it runs the gamut of just the issues that are going on
It does.
in a
And
state.
it has to address something within the Constitution. So, for example,
I
the
see.
state constitution up to 1976 said to be a voter, you have to be at least 21 years old. Nationwide, there was a rebellion against that, and most states proposed dropping the age to 18.
Is that right, really?
That's right.
No kidding. Wow. One thing I wanted to ask, we can get back to the Constitution, but as far as voting goes, and since we're coming up so close to another election period, absentee voters, how does that work with you, and how do you organize that?
Well, our Constitution in the great state of Connecticut determines how we handle that. They give 5 reasons in the Constitution for not showing up on Election Day and having your vote count. And because of that, you just can't decide, I need an absentee ballot because I'm not sure I'm going to be back from wherever I'm going.
Not good enough
You
reason.
have to be able to prove that you are going to be out of town on that day, or it's against your religion to vote on that day, or you're too ill to come to the polls. And if you lie, it's a felony. We're talking serious repercussions.
Yeah,
So
because they just don't want people just deciding they don't feel like getting up and going out and voting
But
that
guess
day.
what? In other states, you can ask, there are no excuse absentee ballot states. Anybody who wants an absentee ballot can get one. So for example, in the western side of our state, there are an awful lot of people who take the train to New York, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. Have you ever ridden that train?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Can you be sure that you'll be home at a particular time?
I wouldn't put my money on that, I'll tell you
and
that.
even if you're just driving on the interstate, can you prove you're going to be home in time to go to the polls?
On I-95?
Exactly.
Are you kidding me?
Exactly. You could sit 9
I'd rather bet
hours,
that
right?
I won't be home on time.
Exactly. So, you show up at the polls at 8 o'clock at night, and they close the door, and you have been disenfranchised. And if you have the kind of life that's that goofy and unpredictable, and anybody who takes transportation certainly knows that, you could request an absentee ballot and assure that you can vote. So what you have to do is you have to apply to your town for an absentee ballot. And you have to do that on a form. You send the form in, you sign that you want an absentee ballot. The town clerk or the registrar of voters sends you in an envelope your absentee ballot when it's ready. Then you have to fill it out, sign that you are the person you say you are, and then you have to mail it back or take it back before the end of the day of the election.
The end of the election day?
That is correct. So if you put it in the mail the day before and the mail doesn't show up till the day after, it doesn't count.
Wow.
And that's the way it works.
Because they have to sort of, they need to know who the winner is. They can't wait for absentee ballots to maybe determine, one way. They have to be in by a certain time.
That's right.
Yeah.
They have to be in by the
Yeah.
time they close the polls.
Wow.
And then they're opened after the machine count is taken. So it's very specific, and the proposal, which the League has supported for I don't know how many years, was to take that language out of the Constitution. Because for one thing, it's administrative detail. In my mind, the Constitution is an overarching document that tells you how to get things done. It doesn't give you the list of first you do this, and then you do this, and then you do that. And it should really be up to the residents of the state through their representatives in the legislature to determine what kind of rules we want to have regarding voting.
So, we learned about the League of Women Voters today. We learned a little bit about the state constitution today. The League of Women Voters is always looking for new members, correct?
Oh, yes.
You would love to have new members.
That's why I invited you, Sean.
I know, and that's the other point. Not just women, but men too. Anybody can join. What can they look forward to if they decide to join? If this is interesting to them, what kind of things will they be involved with?
The things that I enjoy being part of the League, one are participating and helping to put those debates on. That's always interesting and fun and informative. We do a lot of programs in the schools for teaching young people about the history of voting in this country and why it's important to participate. Those are the two things that come to my mind at the moment because that's what we're doing. On the other hand, we also are developing our own TV program through public access to try to bring forward discussions about important topics. And so we have people who never ran a camera learning to run a camera or a sound system. And it's a real growing opportunity. We have one of our members who says she never got a college education, but she got a PhD in the League of Women Voters.
Wow, you learn a lot.
You do. Yeah. And I guess the other part of it is if you have any interest in public service, it's a great place to learn. So a lot of people who are ultimately interested in running for office, whether it be a school board member or a governor, have great opportunity to learn the whole gamut in the League. And it's a great resume builder.
As we tape this, we are coming up close to an election, a midterm election. Is your job any different now, the closer you get to an election, than it would be maybe in a non-election year or just some other time of the year?
Well, yes, it is in the sense of the debates, because those don't happen. On the other hand, it happens whenever there's an election. So local elections, we provide a lot more debates than we're doing now because we go around from town to town. They invite us to come and put on the school board debate, conversation, candidates forums, and so on. So I think we pretty much do the same thing year round: education, advocacy, voter registration. And right now it just seems more ramped up because we're in the season.
Yeah, you're getting closer to
right.
it. Debates is one of the things that you were talking about. When you go to the website, there's a listing of events that are coming up. Do you want to talk about some of the things that are coming up? I would point out that depending on when you're watching this show, maybe one of the events has already gone by, but the website has the full listing of events, so you'll be able to check something else out that may be coming up. But what do you have coming up?
Well, a big conversation we're going to have is on the 25th of October. In the state of Connecticut, we're going to talk about the Common Core. That is a hot button. There are strong feelings on both sides of that question. So we're trying to bring forward some basic information about what is it really, what does it mean, what are the challenges, and it has received an incredible response. This debate is going to this conversation is going to take place on October 25th, yes, Saturday, in New Haven, at the Jewish Community Center there.
And again, if this event has already gone by, still plenty of other stuff coming up.
Absolutely.
Let's take one more break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. So that is our show for today. Judy, do you want to give out the website one more time for people to go?
Surely. www.lwvct.org.
All right. What's on the website for people to see, by the way?
Oh, my goodness. Lots of links to different services and resources. It's a great place if you're looking up something on climate change, for example. We have lots of resources on issues such as that.
Another hot button topic.
We also have links on there to all the local leagues in our state, plus the link to the League of Women Voters of the United States.
Sounds good.
and from which you can go to other states, such as Rhode Island.
There you
which
go.
would be very good.
You were watching from Rhode Island or Connecticut. We thank you. Judy Dolphin is the co-president of the Connecticut League of Women Voters, but lots of stuff here for Rhode Islanders to take in and learn about too. You can watch this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Judy, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Sean.
And we will see you next time. Take care.